What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. All right, before we get out of here today, let's do our power rankings. One team dropped out, the Sacramento Kings, and we have a new team that's on that hasn't been on for a few weeks that we'll be adding. Number 10, the New Orleans Pelicans. They had the most impressive win of the week last week, going into LA and handing the Clippers a pretty impressive, defeating the Clippers in a pretty impressive victory. They won the perimeter battle on both ends of the floor. They put Zion Williamson on Kawhi Leonard, kind of contended strength for strength. Brandon Ingram was on Paul George, length for length. And then they were able to put Herb Jones on James Harden and just completely disrupt him at the start of that game. And then on the other end of the floor, just drove and kicked him to death with just really smart perimeter attacks from guys like CJ McCollum. Larry Nance was big in that game too. Just really, really impressive win. It was the most impressive win of the week, in my opinion. The Pelicans have won 5 of their last 6 games. They are 6th in offense and 6th in defense over that span. Did have a rough end of the week, though. Zion Williamson got absolutely barbecued on defense by the Lakers. And then Dyson Daniels tore his meniscus. So we wish him a speedy recovery. But Pelicans on the uptick at number 10 in our power rankings. Number 9, the Milwaukee Bucks. Just 2-5 since Doc Rivers got hired. Now just 3 games up on the Knicks for the 4 seed. Something to keep an eye on, too, because you want to stay above that 4 seed so that you can avoid Boston until the conference finals. But I'm not reading too much into this streak because Dame missed their last 2 losses. And the other 3 losses were all on this West Coast road trip. And I am seeing encouraging signs in their defensive commitment that I think will bode well down the stretch. So really ugly to go 2-5 under Doc. Obviously, the narrative business is going to jump all over that, and it obviously isn't a great look for you to have a little dance party when you fire your coach and then to drop 5 of the next 7 games, but they are playing better basketball, and I am encouraged about the Bucks in the big picture. Middleton's missed time in that stretch too, so has Brook Lopez. Like, injuries have played a big role in that. Number 8, the Phoenix Suns. They had won 5 out of 6 before the Steph Curry game winner, although it's worth keeping an eye on there because their last 2 losses are to Steph and Trae Young, and both of them went off in those games. Something to keep an eye on with their perimeter defense. Devin Booker is still on a heater. He was completely unbelievable down the stretch of that Warriors game, just cooking Jonathan Kuminga, cooking Brandon Podziemski, just really, really high-level shot making. Looked like the Devin Booker that we saw in the playoffs last year, really encouraging. They're 16-7 since Bradley Beal rejoined the lineup full-time. That's the 5th best record in the league over that span. Number 7, the Oklahoma City Thunder. 2 losses to Utah and Dallas have dropped them to 4-4 in their last 8 games. They're 18th in offense and 20th in defense over that span. Lou Dort and Josh Giddey are still slumping, which has been a big part of their offense falling apart. Number 6, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They beat Miami, but they lost to Chicago. Late game offense was an issue again against Chicago. They were ducking under picks on Mike Conley, and he was kind of passive and unwilling to shoot him. And then Alex Caruso was able to match up with Anthony Edwards athletically in a real way that kind of slowed him down and forced him into some tough shots down the stretch. And from there, Minnesota is not a good closeout attacking team. So if you chase them off the 3-point line, their offense can fall apart. And Chicago came back and beat them after Minnesota led by, I think, as much as 23 in that game. And so that's something to keep an eye on with them with their late game offense, but they did have a big bounce back win against the Miami Heat. Get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers who deposit $5 or more can get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000 back in a bonus bet. I was looking at NBA futures this morning. The Golden State Warriors are plus 5,500 right now on DraftKings to win the title. So if you believe in them, that's a big number. And Denver, I have Denver as my championship favorite, and they're still the second best odds on DraftKings right now at plus 450. So lots of good NBA bets to look at over the course of the end of the season. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. New customers can get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000 if your first bet loses. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. The crown is yours. Number 5, the New York Knicks. They had a 1-2 week with losses to the Dallas Mavericks and the Indiana Pacers, just utterly decimated by injuries. They basically have to learn to play a different style of basketball until they get their guys back. OG Anunoby apparently had a procedure to remove like something out of his elbow. So it turns out that it wasn't something he could just rest. Very different than I was thinking he was having like a tennis elbow kind of thing, but it sounds like there was a loose body in there, which is kind of gnarly. So like he's been out. Obviously, Julius Randle with the shoulder. Those two guys just are a huge part of the physical imposition of that basketball team. And so without them, they basically have to learn how to play a different style temporarily. And so it's impossible to judge the Knicks in the short term, still have them up at number 5. Number 4, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're in a soft spot of their schedule right now. They just racked up back-to-back wins against the Wizards, the Nets, and the Raptors. But they did have a big win early in the week against the Sacramento Kings, just blew them out at home. Evan Mobley, 3 for 7 from 3 since our last power rankings. That's kind of an interesting trend, albeit in a very small sample size. He's shooting 61% in the last week. Darius Garland's a little out of rhythm, as you can tell, coming back. That's something that I've noticed with Darius Garland. When he misses time or at the beginning of the season, when he's kind of getting ramped up, his jumper tends to struggle, and he's struggling, but give him some time. He's very much a rhythm player. Number 3, the Denver Nuggets. Got blown out by Sacramento the other night, but again, like this is kind of textbook stuff that we see in defending champion types of seasons. You're always getting the other team's best shot, because if you can beat Denver, it's a huge kind of like step forward for your team over the course of the regular season. But too often, I'm seeing Denver, whether it's in a big time game against the Lakers, who are treating that like a must win because they were on a little bit of a win streak, whether it's the Celtics game. They just have the ability to methodically walk you down in the half court, and guys like Jamal Murray just raise their game to another level in that setting. Nikola Jokic is comfortably the best player in the world, just too difficult to manage them in that situation. And here's the thing, dropping games in Sacramento and getting blown out, that'll hurt you in a regular season power rankings. But I still feel very confident that the Nuggets are the best team in the league, and I still have them comfortably as my championship favorite at this point. Number 2, the one team that I kind of have my eye on is like a real threat to the Nuggets out west, the Los Angeles Clippers. The offense looked a little clunky this week for the Clippers. They fell apart against the Pelicans, and then they kind of struggled to score against Detroit, who's been playing some kind of spunky basketball as of late. Jaden Ivey's been hooping, something to keep an eye on. He's been one of my favorite young players in the league, and it's good to see him kind of getting some momentum, shooting the 3-ball really well too. So shout out to Jaden Ivey. But Paul George had a really rough game against the Pelicans, and then Kawhi Leonard had a really rough game against the Pistons. So a little bit of a slump there, but still a 1-1 week. And the number 1, a new number 1, after going undefeated after last week, pushing them to number 1, is the Boston Celtics. Huge win against the Miami Heat yesterday. I did an in-depth breakdown in today's show about Boston's matchup attacking, and specifically the different kind of like spots on the floor where they had the most success and some of the reasons why that is the case. So in case you missed that, if you're just watching the Power Rankings breakout clip, if you're a Celtics fan, make sure you check out our Celtics breakdown of their win against the Miami Heat last night, because there's some good stuff in there just in terms of their offensive process on more of an X's and O's level. All right, guys, that is all I have for today. As always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting the show. We will be back tomorrow with some instant reactions as well as a mailbag. I will see you guys then.